Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over how three of the grayscale trusts may be in a perfect opportunity for a breakout. These are perfect debt buying opportunities. And we'll go ahead and go over all of the other grayscale trusts as well as our portfolio. So with that being said, let's get it. All right, so first thing, we're going to go over the portfolio here. So we did sell out of GBAT. For those of you guys that don't know what GBAT is, it's basically the Grayscale's trust version of Basic Attention Token. As you guys can see, we're using the Brave browser. That's pretty much what the token is based on. And it did go up quite a bit in the previous bull run, the underlying cryptocurrencies. So we just decided to take some profit on this. Again, there's no guarantee that any of these are going to go up. So we got basically a 50% gain in 5 days, and we didn't want to leave anything to chance. So we locked in some profit, as you guys can see here. The initial cost basis that we had on this was, let's see, basically these two transactions here we bought right here, as you guys can see. So that total is roughly about $2,000. And then we sold out for roughly about $3,000. So I think the actual profit was about $950. And again, we sold at a price of $11.70. Like I told you all before, if you're not taking profits on the way up in crypto, then there's nothing that I can tell you. That's your choice. So as for us, we're not going to take that chance because we know that we're not smart enough to time the top exactly perfectly and get out perfectly before the whales start dumping their bags. So we just choose to take some profit when it makes perfect sense. So we got out of that. Got to wait for the T2 settlement date to roll over on Friday so we can reposition. But as of right now, we still have ETCG and Mana, and we also have some HZEN too. They're all down, unfortunately, at the moment, so we're looking to get more of those potentially in the coming days. Still have some cash on the side, which in my opinion is a good idea at this point. Not financial advice, that's just my opinion. So let's get into the content here. So what three breakouts am I talking about? Well, the first one here is LTCN. So I want to show you guys this this breakout pattern here. Now I know this chart looks kind of bearish, and we do have kind of a bear trend looking thing going on here. So you have your high, your lower high, lower low. However, if, and keyword if this thing squeezes, well, it's going to squeeze between support and this trend line. That's generally how it works. But if there's a breakout to the upside, the move could be pretty explosive. And once again, I want to reiterate that this is possible because we saw it happen back here. Again, you have this support line here and you have this trend line, and the price got squeezed in between both. Bulls and the bears were fighting it out, and the bulls eventually won. They got that break above the trend line there, as you guys can see. And this thing just absolutely moonshot. Just so you guys know how big the move was here. It was pretty large. So 260% gain. So if we see something like that again, which could happen, 260% gain would put this roughly about halfway into this resistance zone, which is, again, between $100 to $135. But in order for that to happen, this thing has to have a breakout to the upside. So we'll potentially either see it this week and or next week. Now, however, I did say in a previous video that there's a potential here for a death cross. If that was the case, then this move would be invalidated. What you potentially might want to look for is maybe a bounce off this trend line. So the current price of the trend line right now is about 16.5. By the time these two lines here converge, it could be roughly about $17. So that would be something to look at, which is pretty much right above the support. So the support down here is $13.05 to about $15. So it could go somewhere down there. I think it is likely going to hold this trend line. As you guys can see, it rode this trend line for many, many weeks. But once again, you guys can kind of see similarities on the price here. So we had this big breakout above support, came back down below the support, retested the trend line, and then boom, took off. Once we got a break of that downward trend line there, came out of the support, came back down to the support. Now the question is, are we going to come back down to the trend line, bounce, and then take off again to the upside, or is this support zone right here going to be it? Is this the bottom? So the support line may or may not be the bottom, but if If it drops and you buy at this price, you'll get a chance to get even cheaper prices you can add to your bags. If it does not drop and it bounces and goes up, you will miss your opportunity because, again, by the time it bounces up, it's no longer going to be in the zone and you'll be buying at a more expensive price. So, how you want to go about that is up to you. Last thing I want to point out about this is when we did see this breakout of this trend line, you guys can see that the EMAs here on the MACD got very, very close to creating a death cross, but did not actually create a death cross. So we don't have that yet, but you can see a very similar setup here. So they're extremely close to each other, but have not formed a death cross yet. And you can see the histogram going down, 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 and then it kind of faked out and turned green again. So this is a possibility, okay? There's a lot of synchronicities going on here, and this thing could just fake all of us out and go boom, straight up, okay? So that's LTCN. BCHG, very similar setup. Okay, that's the second one. Third one here is HZEN, although this is a little different because we do have a confirmed MACD death cross. So pretty much showed you guys the support. The current support is 2350 to 2670. You guys know what the support is at the trend line. The targets you'd be looking for on this particular trust is the top of this control bar, which again is pretty much where we had that wick high up there. I told you guys roughly around the time that this was happening, that the prices were way up here, that there was a possibility it might get held back by this control bar. So that's actually what happened. And again, that's at $50. The next profit target would be somewhere around 75, and then you'd be looking at about 100 to 135 respectively, which at this point, to get up to 135 is more than a 5x on LTCN. So that's LTCN. Now we'll go into BCHG. Again, very similar to LTCN. So you can see we did actually get a death cross on the MACD here, although it was very shallow, and then it pretty much just uncrossed immediately. So it was a complete fake out. We got a break of this downward trend line, which again was squeezing the support and the trend line. The price was just kind of coiling up in between the two, and then we busted out of there. So again, the measured move from that point basically to the high up here. I actually got to remeasure that. Give me a second. So about 460% move, or about a 6x on your money. And again, if we see something like this, I mean, the move is going to be pretty insane. 458%. You'd be looking at roughly about $73, $74, and it's not too far away from this 1.618. These are all the fib levels. If you guys want to know what those are, you can go check out that video. It's called, I think, something like Grayscale Max Profit Targets or something like that. I forget what the title is, but you can go check it out and see all the different fib retracement levels for market cycle highs for all of these trusts. So that's kind of what we're looking for. And again, the MACD has not had a death cross. Excuse me. So, Jesus. So, pretty much we're looking for a breakout of this trend line, and we'll see it potentially either this week, next week, or maybe even just a couple of weeks from now. It's hard to say at this point, but again, the support is $10.20 to $13. Resistance is $18 to about roughly about $20 or so, and then the wick high up there is $24. If you guys chose to get in now and just rode it up to the wick high, again, just that move alone would be about 109% move. However, if it does break down out of this support zone and comes back down here, which is to this support, which is possible, or even this trend line way down here, although I'm not sure it's going to go that low if I'm being completely honest. I think it probably stops somewhere around these EMAs. So in this zone would be about $7 to $8, or $7 to $7.60, sorry. So again, from that support zone to the wick high up here, as you guys can see, you'd be looking at about a 216% move. So HZEN, this could have something very similar to LTCN and BCHG. The only catch here is that a MACD death cross is already formed. And again, we kind of have this bearish looking trend here of lower highs and lower lows as the price is coming down, but that doesn't mean that it can't break out. It absolutely can. As you guys see, the price was moving up here, and then we had a breakout, whereas the price was kind of moving down here and then up into the trend line and then a breakout. and kind of similar to this. So there's different patterns that can play out. Just because it looks bearish does not necessarily mean it's bearish. It could go down and then kind of chop around and then boom, like that. That is absolutely something that can happen. So current support is about 380 to 420. Support below that's going to be about 260 to 290. Resistance up there is going to be 690 to 810. And then the wick high up there is 1050 a share. So just from the current price to the wick high is about 150% move. If you wanted to get in lower into the zone, which is kind of what we're waiting for, if we are going to buy, is about 165%. And then the zone below that, which I honestly don't think it's going to go back down below that one. But max profit target in the immediate short term here would be about 280%. So ETCG, again, the bottom, anywhere in this channel, in my opinion, is where likely prices are going to hold. So somewhere between 11 to 13.20 a share. And again, the resistance way above head is about $17.80 to about $20. So just assume you got your prices somewhere around $12, so about the middle of that zone. You'd be looking at about a 71% move on ETCG. And again, Ethereum Classic is an oscillator to Ethereum. We have not seen Ethereum hit all-time highs yet. So when it does, this is going to go up with Ethereum. Okay. So ETH and ETCG are going to go up pretty much in sync, just like Ethereum and Ethereum Classic would. So Ethereum, we are still in this channel, which again, basically the target for the channel, because a downward channel is technically a bullish pattern, whereas a rising channel is a bearish pattern. That target's going to be the top of the channel, which is about $30.50. And again, we also have a potential cup and handle pattern here, which again, the top of the target on that, if we do get it, it's going to be way up here at new all-time highs at $55. So we'll just do the measure move on this. So pretty much from the current price to the most recent swing high is 64%. If we get to the resistance above that, it's 122%. And then 150% or so respectively to that for that cup and handle pattern. So in terms of where support is on this, you'd be looking at about 17 to 18 bucks on that zone down there. And then anywhere along the bottom of this trend line, in my opinion, is going to be the first. These are going to be the first two stops that it stops at before it potentially bounces. If we ever get below those, I'll let you guys know next levels that we'd be looking at. But as of right now, those are the current levels. So pretty much anywhere between 18 to about 20 bucks is going to be your support here, and anywhere down along this trend line, which again lines up pretty much perfectly with that support zone there. And the current resistance is 25, 29, and roughly about $36 respectively. So FILG, this is one that we're watching very, very closely. We're actually really seriously considering getting into this. So again, you kind of have this high, low, lower high, lower low. Now the question is, what is this candle going to do? We don't know yet. Still got 2 days left. So as of right now, the swing high up here is $400. We're kind of waiting for it to get into the zone here. So it's being sneaky. It's kind of like, almost looks like it doesn't want to go in there, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see. So that zone as of right now is going to be $38 to $40. Again, if we can capture the zone and we can ride it all the way up here, it's going to be about a 10x on our money. And I'm pretty confident that's going to happen because, again, we have not seen cycle highs for Bitcoin based on pretty much all the indicators we've looked at. I'm pretty confident we're not at the cycle peak yet. So as of the current price to the swing high, you'd be looking at about 452%. And then from the zone to the high, you'd be looking at 900%. So there's a huge difference there. GBAT, this is the one that we just got out of. Again, it does look rather bullish, but considering that Bitcoin is pulling back right now, and I know everybody was like, oh, Bitcoin's not going to pull back. I mean, look, I'm not saying it can't happen. I mean, Bitcoin we're still in a bull market for Bitcoin. I mean, there's no question about that. But, I do the best I can to try to not get my feelings involved when it comes to investing and trading, because that's how a lot of people get wrecked in the finance space. Mastering of the emotions is one thing that traders commonly have to deal with. especially successful traders who trade hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars per trade. There are people out there that do that. So, anyways, as of right now, support is going to be about $7.50 to $10. Swing high up here is going to be about $32. So just from the current price to the swing high, 178%. And from the support zone, we'll just pick roughly around the middle of the zone to the swing high, 255%. And again, what we're looking for on LTCN is kind of what we're seeing on GBAT. So again, it kind of comes up, pulls back into support, then we kind of wedge in between support and this trend line, and then boom, it pops out of there, and then it starts ripping. Of course, we won't know that that's actually going to happen until we see a candle pop out of here. And again, that candle could be a fake out. So we would go down to the daily time frame, kind of look at that, see if we get like a candle close on the daily, 4 hourly, something like that, and then confirm whether this is the real deal or not. So that's kind of what's going on with GBAT. But if we go back to LTCN, you can see that we're not quite at the GBAT stage yet, but that just gives you guys an idea of kind of what it would look like if we were looking at a breakout. So GLIV support right now is $12 to $15. Swing high, or I should say the all-time high, is going to be at about $80 up there. This thing is actually pretty cheap, if I'm being completely honest. I think this thing's really cheap because, again, this thing is kind of really dumped pretty hard. So it's down about 76%. I mean, that's a large drop. It doesn't mean it can't go lower, but you have a lot of trading volume right here and a lot of different candlesticks going on there. So I'm thinking that's going to hold. But again, if you wanted to wait to buy in at that support, you'd be looking at nearly 550%. So that's a big return. That's like 6-7x. G-Link, still waiting for this one to come down to support. So 65 to 84 on that one. The high is up there at 220. And again, we do have the actual Filecoin token. This is Chainlink, my bad. So we have the Filecoin token, but we don't have PhilG. That's what we're looking at. For some reason, I always get these two confused. I don't know why. They just seem to look very similar. But so anyways, G-Link, this is for Chainlink, not Filecoin. I do think it's likely going to come back down to this support again because, you got these 4 candle tops here. We're just not breaking out. And we only got 2 days to reverse this and go to the upside. If that doesn't happen, I suspect it will come back down to the zone. So again, if it comes back down here and you manage to scoop it up in that zone, you'd be looking at about a 212% gain swing to the upside here. So again, GSOL, it's kind of wedging in between this resistance and the support. It does look like it maybe wants to pop out of here and go down, but it's hard to say at this point. So this thing could easily reverse and go back up. But the high up here is $580. The current support is $170 to $200. And again, if you were to just ride the momentum from the support zone to the all-time high up there, you'd be looking at about 214%. GXLM, again, the bottom of this trend line is going to be roughly about where support is. So that could range anywhere from maybe 31.5 to about 33.5, somewhere in there. And then you have 52.5, 58, and about $89 or $69 respectively on those potential profit targets up there. So from the trend line to the top of the zone, 75%, and then all the way up to the swing high is 104% move. Mana, this is also another one we're seriously taking a look at because, again, it did have a pretty large move here from basically the low to the high, was about a 7x. And again, we're not in the actual parabolic phase of the bull run yet, but this thing is sitting pretty perfectly as support. It's pretty close. I mean, it's literally right there. So roughly about 18 to 20 and a quarter on the support, and then the resistance is going to be about $70. From that zone to the swing high is about 266% move. Zcash, the support on this thing is about $4.40 to $5.10, and then $7.40 to $8 on resistance, and then $10.15, $10.20 somewhere in there on the swing high. And just to go from the current price to the swing high is 114% move. So in terms of the ones that we're personally taking a look at buying right now, Um, I would say HZEN is definitely on the table, but we don't really want to get it until we see it get a little bit more firmly into this zone, just to be on the safe side, because if it does drop, then we can basically add to our position as it goes down. Whereas the higher up in price it is up here, the more we have to add, and the longer it's going to take for us to DCA down. So we want to get as close to the move as possible, is basically what I'm saying here. And then also definitely taking a look at PhilG. Again, Filecoin itself has barely moved, whereas you've had things like Solana and Shiba Inu and Bitcoin and all these other coins, altcoins and Bitcoin alike, that have just absolutely shredded in terms of price. I mean, they've done like a 7x, a 10x, all kinds of crazy stuff. You got some meme coins out there like Brett and stuff like that are just doing crazy multiples. But Filecoin itself hasn't really moved. It's barely done anything. And I'm not talking about PhilG. I'm talking about the underlying. So if that thing moves, if it moves, like if it does like a 20x, like let's say Bitcoin, we hit the all-time highs for Bitcoin, 150,000 by the end of this year, and then BTC dominance falls off, and then we have our big alt season. Our alt season starts right around that time. Let's say it lasts 12 months or something. And Filecoin does start doing multiples. It does like a 10, 20x. This thing could just absolutely destroy its previous all-time highs up here. I mean, we could be looking at maybe a 20, 30, 40x on this thing. So this is one we're definitely looking at, but we want to try to get this entry as precise as possible. So GBAT, we want to get back into this one, but we want to wait for it to dip back into the zone. So we're definitely looking at that. And I would say the only other one we're looking at right now is Mana. But again, we do want to kind of wait for it to get just a little bit closer to the support zone before we buy into it. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.